And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. A lot of words I could say about today's live and just my life in general in this hobby, but I think there's just like one word that I keep coming back to, and that is blessed. I am very, very, very blessed in this hobby. I'm blessed mainly because of the people I surround myself, the company I keep in this hobby. It is one of the most amazing things about this hobby. So in today's video, I'm going to go over my Collecticon experience for August of 2024. It was a lot of fun. It was super hot. I'm going to, at the very end of this video, I am going to talk a little bit about just what I saw buying and selling there. But for the most part, this is going to be a recap of just my experience. And this video might be for most people. Hopefully, if you're deep down the rabbit hole watching this channel, you probably care about that experience. But for those of you guys who are looking for more of the market talk, this might not really be that type of video. But you know me, I'm just going to over-explain everything, and I'm going to explain to you the whole trip, Rusty's house, going out with the guys, walking around the event, the hotel, everything in between. You know how I am. So, first off, if you guys watched my most recent live, which was on Thursday, as soon as that live was over, I packed up all my stuff. I took a shower and I got everything all ready. I didn't fall asleep until midnight. I was up by 2:30 a.m. in order to catch a 6 a.m. flight. So I was up at 2:30 a.m., got ready. I was out the door by 3. Hour and a half drive to the airport. I got there a little bit early because I was afraid of New York road work because I was leaving out of LaGuardia. Ended up getting there like 40 minutes early. I really wished I slept for that extra 40 minutes because it would have helped out big time over the weekend. But it didn't happen. Got on the plane, 6:04 departure time. The flight time in the air was like 123 minutes. It was one of those up and down. So, ended up flying into Charlotte. I had texted Rusty a little bit beforehand, letting him know, saying, "Hey, Rusty, is it okay if I show up to your house a little bit earlier because I do have an early flight?" And he said, "Yeah, sure." So, got off the plane, got my rental car, picked up my rental car. I got the best deal on a rental car. For 2 days, all in, after taxes and fees, $103 for 2 days. That was like, whatever, $51.50 a day. That was a great rental price. At least I thought it was a good rental price, like a little over $50 a day. It was like a full-size Nissan Sentra or something like that. But got my rental car, drove the Rusties. I was the first one there. Got to have like a conversation with Rusty before everybody got there. It was just always good to see Rusty. We walked around. I never really got a tour of Rusty's collection before because the last time I went to Rusty's, we did get there a little late because I was vending at the time. We were waiting for our passes, so I was able to walk around a little bit with Rusty. Even after walking around with him, I wish I just opened every bin and looked inside because there was a lot of stuff that I just straight up missed. I didn't see some of the stuff till I was watching Zach Gemmett Pokemon's Instagram reel. Like Rusty has World's Trophy. I didn't even know. So Rusty's World Trophy was one of the extra World Trophies. So just in case one of the trophies broken, so he has a bunch of like the different plates on it. Never even knew he owned it. Didn't even know it was in his collection room. So that was cool. But if you guys do not know, there is the Pokemon clock from the New York City Pokemon Center. It's a pretty awesome clock. They sell for thousands of dollars. But Rusty had, I believe, 3 of them. So he has one that's on his wall. He has a sealed inbox one, and then he has a loose one. And it was the first time I ever saw it actually like opened up. So every hour it plays a different Pokemon song, and then the clock opens up and it makes this awesome display. These clocks are wild. And last time I was at Rusty's, I don't know what happened, how I missed it, but I never saw the clock go off on that hour mark. So I got to watch that. That was cool. Always being just around the uncut sheets. And last time I went to his house, I didn't really go through like the other piles of uncut sheets. So when you walk into his collection room, there's a bunch of uncut sheets there. And then he has the ones everybody knows. And, man, epic. That's all I can say. I don't know how to phrase it. Maybe I said this last time, but there's a lot of people in this hobby who will never complete a master set of just base set hollows. And by base set hollows, what do I mean by that? I mean, there's a lot of people in this hobby will never complete a full master set of unlimited hollows, shadowless hollows, first edition hollows, and then 99 2000 hollows. And that's pretty much all there is for base set. And there's only 16 hollows for each one of those sets. And a lot of people will never even accomplish that goal. My man Rusty has complete set of uncut sheets. Does that make sense? I don't think a lot of people out there really understand how important or how crazy that is to say. Some people will never complete hollow sets of 16 cards, and my man has complete uncut sheets. Multiple, not just one first edition base uncut sheet. Wild. I mean, wild. So happy it's Rusty too. I mean, if I had to pick anybody in this hobby who should own these sheets, it is Rusty. So it's always great to see Rusty. He pulled out a lot of his collection too. We were going through some of those cards. Always fun. And just one of the most humble human beings in this hobby. And I'm very, very, very blessed. Again, I'm going to use that word blessed a lot today. I'm very blessed that somebody who I always looked up to previously in this hobby, and somebody that I always held at such a high esteem, I'm very, very lucky that I get to call Rusty a friend. And, I'd say Rusty's one of my best friends in this hobby at this point. I just feel very, 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 I cannot tell you how blessed I feel to be able to call Rusty my friend. And there's an old saying too, it's you should never meet your heroes because you'll always be disappointed. And Rusty's one of those very, very few people you'll ever meet in your life, which you are never going to be disappointed with the person he is on camera, the person he is in real life, and the person he is outside of this hobby. All around awesome dude. Very, very, very blessed. I'll call Rusty my friend. But at that point, everybody started trickling in. Ton of people ended up coming. We were up in Rusty's workshop, and then we went down to his house. Everybody ate lunch. Rusty's him and his wife were nice enough that they catered a bunch of lunch meats and stuff, so everybody had sandwiches and everybody ate. And then last time I was at Rusty's, got a full court basketball basketball court in his backyard. A full court. I'm not talking a half court. Full court, big rims, big baskets, beautifully poured, well done concrete pad for the court. And last year I didn't have the right clothes, so I didn't play basketball, and I always kind of regretted that. I suck at basketball. I'm just going to be honest with you. Basketball is not my sport. I have a lot of sports. Baseball, I'm very good at. Football, I'm very good at. Basketball, just unfortunately, is that one sport I'm not good at. But I'm you know what? I will play basketball this year. And I said, my goal was to score 1 point. And I managed to score 0 points. But my goal was to score 1. And next year, my goal will also be to score 1 point. But it was hot. I know. You're listening, you're yeah, you guys are outside running around playing basketball. Sure, it was hot. No, I really mean this. And I'm saying this in the most truthful way possible. It was so hot on that court. Everybody was struggling, and a lot of people ended up playing basketball. We ended up getting a 6-on-6, so it was really just 5 on the court, so you always had one person kind of taking a breather, so that was really nice. So if you needed that breather, you could take it. So I played the first game, sat out the second game, and the second game was only a 2-on-2, and then the third game was a 3-on-3, and I ended up winning on the third game, even though I didn't score any points. It was me, Rusty, and Pokemon Radar, and we took out the Yu-Gi-Oh guys. So, and then the third guy on that team so it was Ruxin34, if you guys are familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh, he was on the other team. Those Yu-Gi-Oh guys were really good. Rusty's very good at basketball. Dan Ketchum, Collectibles, don't let him fool you. He's just very tall. Dan, you're very tall. Being tall at basketball definitely helps. But there was a lot of people. They were hustling up and down that court, though. And it was hot, though. I mean, I know everybody's just yeah, PK, Charlotte in August. I'm sure it was hot, but it probably wasn't that bad. It was hot. I'm talking before you started playing, standing on that court, it was, you knew, like, you could kind of see it in each other's face right before the game started. You kind of looked around, and people were kind of in their, you could see them thinking in their head, like, it is going to be. Oh, I'm sorry. So the third game, it wasn't Pokemon Radar on my team. It was Jake, Pokenomics. Radar sat out that game. But anyways, you can tell everybody was like looking around like it's about to be a hot one. And so as soon as we played those games, then at the very end, like I'd say right towards the middle to end of the third game, the cloud cover started to roll in a little bit, and it blocked out the sun, made it super nice, but then it started to rain. Most people don't ever want to stand out in the rain. I think we all collectively, as a group, just kind of stood in the rain for just a little bit because it was just so refreshing at that point because it was so hot. So we all ended up getting absolutely drenched. So, I mean, most of the time when it rains, everybody just kind of sprints inside, and we didn't. We just kind of like hung out in the rain, and we were all kind of looking at each other saying, this rain feels really good right now on this day. So we all go back into Rusty's workshop, and then Rusty started pulling out his TCA shirts. So he had some TCA shirts, so the Charizard Authority, but he had some of the real old shirts that before Pokemon sent him a cease and desist letter saying you can no longer use the word Char. This is not unknown information. This is very public, but when Rusty had his original eBay, TCA Gaming stood for the Charizard Authority. And when Rusty was a small-time seller, you're not going to get the eyes of Pokemon. But eventually, especially on eBay and on social media, Rusty ended up becoming a very well-known, very recognized, very mainstream person for a long period of time in this hobby. So Pokemon Company came in and pretty much sent him a cease and desist letter that says you can no longer use the word Charizard in your name. So that was when Rusty changed his name to TCA Gaming, but he had a couple of those the Charizard Authorities. Those are old dated shirts, and he gave those away to some of the people, and I got one of the TCA Gaming shirts. I'm just going to tell you right now, one of my new favorite shirts that I own. But we were all there. We all just hung out a little bit longer there. People were up and down, going through the collection room. People went up, upstairs where his uncut sheets are. And it's just, there's so much stuff to look at. And I think it was Retrospecs. And I had said this the last time I was there. And I think Retro also kind of reiterated my same sentiment that I had the first time I went to Rusty's house is you're very humbled when you go to Rusty's house and you see Rusty's collection, because I think Dan actually also made a video touching on this, that the American dream is not dead. And anybody that says the American dream is dead, you don't have to look far sometimes to see an example where the American dream is very much alive. And I think Rusty is a fantastic representation of what is possible and what hard work and determination and the belief and the factor of what could be the American dream. Rusty is, he embodies that thought very, very well. And Retro also said something that I said the first time I was there is, you're very humbled by what Rusty has been able to accomplish and for the amount of time he was doing it. And one of the funny things was I got to ask Rusty's wife too questions that I would be fine asking Rusty on a live and stuff. It's just like, what do you tell your friends? What do you tell your friends? Do you tell them my husband sells Pokemon cards? And obviously now they're probably extremely proud of that fact, but was there a period of time that you were worried to tell that? And Rusty's wife gave a lot of funny examples, and she's like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. There was definitely a period of time where I was nervous, or you talk to older people and nobody's going to understand that you do Pokemon, and if you do Pokemon, how can you make a living doing Pokemon cards? That doesn't make any sense. You're talking children's trading cards, and people are going to think most modern packs, and they're going to think that's not a possible life you can live. So I'm not going to say what the conversations were that me and her had, but it was funny, the story she had. But yeah, just being around Rusty's collection, you're very humbled. And I talked about this after I got back from his house last time, and if anybody didn't watch that video, I will say it again. One of the beautiful things about being around not just Rusty, but Dan and Gemmett and Charlie and Gary and some of the people that I respect at the highest regards in this hobby for not just what they have done, but what they're continuing to do and what I know that they will continue to do in the future. It's very humbling in the sense to be around them because you can see what the highest end of success in this hobby looks like, and you don't always have to. And I think, especially in the world of YouTube and everything, is people see other people's collections and they think that those collections are unattainable or that their success is not repeatable. But I don't believe any of that is inherently true. I just think with enough hard work, it's all possible. Now, for me personally, I don't ever need to repeat what any of these guys have done because I don't know if I could do it, like what they've been able to do. But that doesn't matter. And the same thing like Retro was saying, like being humbled a little bit. You don't have to always copy everybody and be this person, but you can just get to like 10% of what they're doing. 20%, 30%. Those numbers are definitely very, very possible. And, I work full time, so Pokemon is still like part time for me. But to be able to get to what these guys are doing and just doing 10 to 20%, it's just it's a different level of this hobby. And it's just good to be around those people because it motivates you. Because I think a lot of times is if you don't have the motivation and you never really truly know what is actually possible. I think a lot of people, even probably people in the background who've never commented, they, listen to this channel and they have the earbud in their ear and they're laying in their bed and, they always kind of think about what is possible? What could be the future? But they never know sometimes because they never are able to actually see somebody that was doing it. So maybe sometimes in their head they just think like maybe it's not possible. And sometimes, as crazy it is to say, is you just have to see it to believe it. And if you see it, you will believe it. And then there are people out there that are living this. They're doing this. They are living that life and they are making it possible on the highest end. So it's a great feeling. And yeah. Surround yourself not just in life, not just at work, but especially in this hobby. Surround yourself with people who are the best of what this hobby has to offer. I think there are a lot of good people in this hobby, but surround yourself with the best. Find that group. There's a lot of like secret sauces to this hobby, and I think a lot of people spend a long time and they overanalyze all these minutiae and nuances, and they try to break this hobby down, and I try to do it on lives and just peel it back to the most simple definitions and trying to take Pokemon, which from the outside looking in looks like a very simple thing, but when you get deep into it, you find out like how absolutely daunting and confusing and the hurdles sometimes you have to go over just to be successful in this hobby at that high end. But when you peel back all the layers, I think that the number one thing is just the people you keep around. And that network of people, the help you get from those people, it's great. I don't know how else to put it. But that was Rusty's house. And then, so after that, then at dinner, Rusty and his wife, again, very, very nice of them. They had a big spread. It was like pasta, chicken, there was like a chili, and then his wife made I don't even know what it was. It was like a pork, but it was in this like gravy sauce. I must have had 4 helpings. I was the only one, I think, that like kept going back and eating it. It was arguably one of the most delicious things I ever had. I kept going back, and then we all just sitting around Eventually it did start to get late. Rusty's kids were going to start going to bed, and we didn't want to be super loud, so we said okay. By that point it was like 9:30 at night, so we were all getting ready to leave. Went back up top. Everybody got in their cars. I did drive there alone because I told you I drove straight from the airport to Rusty's. So then on the way back, Dan Ketchum All Collectibles was nice enough to drive with me. Me and Dan had a good conversation just driving back, talking all things Pokemon, obviously. And we got back to the hotel. At this point, it's like 10:45-ish. And we were like, all right, you guys want to go out, just get a drink? So we were like, yeah, okay, let's go upstairs. Let's all take a shower. Because keep in mind, we all just played basketball earlier that day. So we were all, every single one of us was probably smelling a little ripe at that point. So we all went up to our rooms. Everybody took a shower. And then we met down at the lobby at 11:15. And then we went to like this pub house. It was right around the block from the hotel, kind of near the convention center. It has like a million different beers on tap. It has almost like a daunting menu. But we got there. We got a table. Some of the guys ordered food. I was not hungry at all. I ate a ton of food at Rusty's. So a few guys got like apps. I think like Retro maybe got a salad. But there was a bunch of people there. And then they had dartboards. So then we went over. We started playing darts, which was a lot of fun. Then they had darts. They had like an indoor bocce ball court. And then a shuffleboard table. So Dan is playing darts. When it's not his turn for darts, he's going over, he's playing bocce with somebody else. And then after we were playing darts, we played bocce for a while. Then me and Dan went to the shuffleboard table, and me and Dan had an epic 1v1 battle on shuffleboard. If you guys ever played shuffleboard, this table we were playing at was one of the fastest tables I've ever played. I've played a decent amount of shuffleboard, but never as fast of a table. And it was just, the table is actually not well maintained in the sense that there was too much sawdust everywhere. You got to have like a small amount of sawdust on a good shuffleboard table. There was sawdust all over this thing. But so me and Dan played the shuffleboard. I'm not going to say who won. I think Dan won one of the closest games, just squeaked out by 1 point. So yeah, we were there and we ended up closing the bar, but no, it's not like, oh, these guys were out partying super hard, closing the bar. No, I told you, we met in the lobby. It was 11:15. We got there at like 11:30. We were sitting down, talking, playing darts, shuffleboard, bocce. We weren't all like going crazy. So when I say shut down the bar, it just means we were hanging out pretty much, just talking till 2 a.m. And then that was Saturday night. And then the next morning, I was lucky enough that I was able to get a pass, so I didn't have to wait in the long line. I got to sleep in a little later, little later. So they let the vendors in at 8, they let the VIPs in at 9, and then they let the general public in at 10. So I didn't have to wait in line, so I slept in till like 8:30 in the morning. So you got to keep in mind, I was up since 2:30 a.m. the previous day, didn't go to bed until around 3 a.m. So I was up for a 25-hour span. So I was pretty tired by the time I went to bed. So I got like a 5-6 hour sleep. That's all I needed. Collecticon, if you're getting 5 or 6 hours of sleep, you are doing pretty well. So got some sleep, refreshed, ended up going to the Collecticon. And again, so the hotel last year was at the Omni, and it was a couple blocks away from the convention hall. This year, it was like smack dab right next to it. It was convention hall, and you cross the road, and you're at the hotel. I mean, they were super close this year. I didn't really love the hotel, but they were doing a lot of construction, so I don't know. But so I'm walking to the Collecticon, and they hadn't let the general public in because the general public wasn't able to enter till 10 a.m. And again, the line was just preposterously long again. It was nothing near like what New Jersey's was, but this line looked very long. And I do feel bad for like all the people that have to stand in line, so I was able to just walk through the door. I was able to show my badge, get through security, and then got to the event floor. By that point, the VIPs had just been allowed in. Nobody was really there yet, so walked around. A lot of people were still setting up. I saw where everybody was There's like Ray's section, and then Dan's section, and then the Jake Pokenomics section. So I was able to like walk around the different sections and just kind of say hi to these guys. I had seen most of the people I had seen the day before, not all of them. So, went, said hi to a lot of the people there. Rusty was already there. Rusty got there pretty early. And then I didn't walk around. Wait, did I walk around? I don't think I walked around with Rusty in the morning. I walked around kind of just by myself, checked out all the tables. I brought a couple things to sell. Not things to really, per se, make money, but a couple things to sell that just pay for my trip. So I ended up selling Level X Diamond and Pearl, the Charizard Level X half deck, the Japanese one. I ended up selling that for like $400 to a vendor. I had a 2009 Blastoise Japanese World deck I traded for, what did I? So I traded that for a PSA 9 Reverse Hollow Houndoom from Skyridge and a PSA 8 Mew from the Rumble series. So I quickly got that. I walked to somebody's case. I saw they were selling Rumble cards raw for a pretty high dollar amount, so I was like, hey, I got this Rumble Mew I'll sell for you right now, and it's pretty competitively priced, seeing how like the raw Rumble cards you have in your case you're asking so much money. And so that was a quick sell, so I ended up doing pretty good on both of those. And then I dropped off a few cards to Dan Catch 'em All Collectibles. Nothing high end, just stuff that I thought in my head would sell really well, because I've had pretty decent success selling these type of cards at cons. So cards that were valued between, I'd say, $40 to $60. Like I really like $50 cards. Like that's what I want to sell, because I think it's an easy, quick snap buy, and cards that had good liquidity for me in Jersey. So I dropped off 6 cards in total to Dan, and Dan was able to sell 4 of the 6. And that was only on Saturday. I didn't drop off any cards on Sunday or anything like that. So to be able to have a sell-through rate of 4 out of 6 cards is pretty good. So I was pretty correct with what I brought. I did wish I brought a few more cards. So after that, we were walking around, ended up meeting up with Rusty for a while. Me and Rusty walked the event floor for like a pretty decent amount of time. I would say me and Rusty probably walked the floor for maybe like 2 hours. It was a decent. We walked the floor pretty a lot, and we also like left the event and went and just got lunch together too. It was just me and him. Me and Rusty got to talk. It's just so good, just having like one-on-one conversations, talking about everything, talk about life, talk about Pokemon, all the things you would normally expect when you're sitting down having a conversation with people. And then we went back into the room. And I said to Rusty, I was like, Rusty, let's play a game. And he's like, all right, what's the game? And I said, I'll name a card, and then first one to find the card wins. And the very first card I said was, let's find the Umbreon from Neo Discovery. And then Rusty was like, okay. And he looked down, he's like, there's one. I was like, okay, let me find a harder card. So then I said, okay, let's do Squirtle, Reverse Hollow from Legendary Collection. So, and it had to be the Squirtle. So we were walking around, and then again, we probably went to like 3 or 4 tables later, and Rusty just eagle-eyed this Squirtle. And I think we played another card too. I think we played the game 3 times, and Rusty just destroyed me every single time. I wasn't even close to being in the... Rusty just has an eye for Pokemon, and he was just able to scan. So, yeah, that was fun, just walking around with Rusty. And then Rusty was picking up a couple buys. I think he was picking up a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I don't know if Rusty will do like a little Collecticon recap where maybe he'll show the cards he picked up, but I don't really know much about Yu-Gi-Oh, but I know Rusty was trying to fill in a couple collection goals. He ended up getting a real good deal from Ruxin. It was like a crazy deal in comparison to like market. Anyways, Rusty was like, go up to Ruxin and like tell him you'll just buy out all the stuff for this percentage. And then Ruxin was laughing. But yeah, so we walked around. We were talking to a few people here and there. You know how it is. I wasn't vending this event, so I was able to just go around. But I will tell you something. I say this all the time. If you have a bad location, you're not going to do well. And Dan Catch 'em All Collectibles comes from the thought of, if you have good things priced well, they will sell. Now, Dan, I know Dan, so I'm not worried about like blowing this up, but Dan ended up getting a buyout from somebody, so I know Dan will probably end up doing a Collecticon recap. I'm not going to do any of the prices, anything like what he sold, but Dan got a decent buyout. So after the first day, Dan had sold through probably close to 90+% of his inventory, more or less. Like all the graded cards he brought all got sold the first day. I know he was doing some collection buys. I don't know what he ended up doing the second day, but not going to talk about any of like the numbers, but you know Dan's going to make a Collecticon recap. So if you guys do want to know what Dan sold, follow his channel. You'll get that real in-depth Collecticon like recap from Dan as well. So yeah, it was good to see him. But I will tell you, Dan's table had the worst foot traffic, and the event didn't feel as full. Now, I did just come off the back of the New Jersey Collecticon, and the New Jersey Collecticon was the most preposterous Collecticon I have ever been a part of, with just the sheer amount of people that were in that room, the sheer amount of foot traffic, the sheer amount of like money that was being spent at the Jersey Collecticon was at an almost make-believe level. Like, if you ever thought that this is a weak hobby, you just had to go to the Jersey Collecticon and look around and go, wow, this is special. So number one mod in the game, Drew, dropped a link for Dan's channel. If you guys are not subscribed, click on that link. It'll send you over to his channel, then come right back. Give him a quick subscribe and come right back. But yeah, Dan will be doing a recap video showing what he sold. But he did. He had a lot of good cards, priced well, and they were, made to sell. So, but either way, his table had the worst foot traffic. Like, I was standing behind his table a little bit, like Dan was walking around at the end of the day, like going to use the bathroom, and I would just say, oh, yeah, I'll watch your table for a little bit for you. And as I'm standing there, I keep looking at him like, Dan, there's nobody walking in front of your table. Like, it was just a dead zone. No foot traffic whatsoever. And I kept looking at him like, Dan, there's no one. Look, there's nobody here. I said, I can't even talk to somebody that tried to sell a card because there's no one walking in front of your table. And Dan's like, no. There's no such thing as like bad spots in these these Collecticons. But yeah, okay. So that was that. And then end of the event, I was Jake Pokenomics was nice enough to give Rusty a little spot in his like table booth area. So Rusty was selling some stuff, Jake was selling some stuff for him. But one of the things that Rusty was selling, if you guys do not know, Rusty gave me the Fossil uncut sheet pack wrappers. So he gave me this one last year. So this is original Fossil. It's like a uncut sheet. You got three on each side, so one of each artwork. So that's pretty cool. But then I didn't have the base set one, so now Rusty was selling these. He had it for, actually compared to his eBay account, what he was selling these in person for was a pretty low price. But then I went up to Rusty. I was like, Rusty, come on, buddy, what's the best you can do? And then Rusty gave me a dollar amount that no one. There's not a single person at that Collecticon the dollar amount that Rusty threw out for me to buy that thing. So I just snapped. I was like, done. Took out my money, gave him some money, and then I am now officially the owner of both the uncut sheets. So I got the base set and the Fossil. The Fossil was given to me by Rusty, but then I bought the base set one off of him. He gave me the good deal. I mean, probably the cheapest he sold one of those things in the last decade. So, Rusty, if you're out there, cheers, my friend. Thank you very much. So, now, that's Saturday at the con. I could talk about more, like, maybe I'll talk about it in future videos, kind of just some of the people that I ran into, some of the conversations I had. But now I'm going to get to the point in the video that is very sad, and you're also going to find out, like, for those who went out to dinner, I'm going to inform them of, like, what happened, which is a really, really sad series of events. So, I left the con. I had already checked out of the hotel that morning because I didn't have a room for the night. So, but I was able to keep my parking car in... was able to keep my car in the garage. They were able to give me access for the gate. So I went there. Everybody went out to dinner. They went to Capitol Grill. Capitol Grill, I guess you call it like a higher end steak. Yeah, I call it a high end steakhouse. And Pokey Chef called ahead to the Capitol Grill, and he had all the staff at Capitol Grill create a customized menu, which had it was like a limited menu, but it was customized by Pokey Chef. So you knew everybody that went there was going to have an absolutely amazing dinner. It was like 2 different types of steak options, a ton of appetizers, desserts. If I told you, I don't know how many people ended up coming up, but I feel like it had to been close to 30 people came up to me at the event and said, PK, are you going to the dinner afterwards? And I said, no, I have a flight tonight. I fly out Saturday night. I didn't stay for Sunday. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I should try to do it. And then I was talking to Dan. I'm like, Dan, do you know anything about Charlotte Airport? Is Charlotte Airport going to be like Denver Airport, where you get there and you got to stand in line for 2 hours to get through TSA? And he's like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, I don't know either. And I was like, I can't take the risk of missing my flight. So I ended up opting out of the Capitol Grill dinner, and I talk about having FOMO. I felt FOMO. I was like, there's a little piece of me in my brain. I was like, what if I just see if I could change my flight and get my flight postponed till tomorrow, and I'll just spend another night in Charlotte, literally to just go out to this dinner. I was really, really sad I wasn't able to make it. But anyways, I leave. I drive to the airport. I thought the whole time, I don't know where this number came from, but I thought that the airport was an hour from the convention center, because Rusty's house was about an hour from the airport. But for some reason, I kept thinking the airport was an hour, but the airport was only 20 minutes from the convention center. So I already would have added on about 40 hours extra worth of time, but it still would have been close if TSA was really bad. I walked through TSA. It might as well have been nobody in line. I just walked right through. And I'm like, I definitely feel like I could have done the dinner at this point. Even at that point, I think I could have did it. I would have been fine. So I'm sitting in the airport, and I'm in the back of my head, I'm like, I can't believe I missed this dinner. The drive was a lot shorter than I thought. The TSA line was non-existent. I walked right through. I haven't walked through a TSA line in years where I didn't have to wait in line. I don't know. It was just all these things. Definitely could have went to the dinner. This is where it gets bad. I'm sitting there waiting for my plane. All flights into New York are canceled. The only flight that is not canceled into New York was mine, because I chose the latest possible time, and my flight ended up getting delayed until 12:15 a.m. We didn't fly out till 12:15 a.m. I 100% would have been able to make that dinner, seeing how my flight ended up getting delayed until 12:15 a.m. I missed the dinner. So sad. And then, yeah, I ended up getting home to my actual house after the flight landed and everything, 3:30 in the morning. So that was sad. Really had the FOMO. Really, really sad I missed that dinner, but I don't know. Who would have knew? Yeah, Catch 'em All Collectibles. I'm looking down in the chat. He said, I told you to assume it was going to be delayed. Yeah. So Catch 'em All Collectibles said, we started at 7 and finished after 9 for dinner. So assuming my flight was not delayed, that dinner schedule wouldn't have been possible for me. But because it ended up getting delayed so much, it would have been possible. So live and learn. So pretty much that was my trip. But now I'm going to leave you guys with a final thought for this. And I think this is something important I want you guys to just put in your back pocket and save it for maybe when you need it. Everyone is going to, in their life, go through ups and downs, the good, the bad, the uglies, and everything in between. And it's funny because this hobby, we've all now grown with each other. We were having conversations, when we were at Rusty's all together, and I'm like, when I created my channel, it was just me and the wife. We didn't have kids, and, now I got 2 kids, and talking to Dan, and Dan's like, yeah, well, my kids are getting older, and everybody else is talking, and it's, it's like where we started to where we are now in our lives. We've grown so much, not excluding this hobby, we've just grown so much in our lives, and so much of our lives have changed in the last 10 years or 5 years, and it's a pretty fascinating thought, like I said, and the good and the bads and the ups and the downs and everything that comes with it. But we're all doing this journey together too. So as I get older, my friends are also getting older, and I'm being able to watch as, their families grow, and watch as they're being successful, and they get to watch the same thing. They get to watch my family grow, and, through this hobby and through the connections we have made and through the bonds we have made, we've been able to, just not just grow individually, but grow as a community. And that was one of the big things that I took out of this weekend, is that the community is just growing together. And that is such an awesome experience and such an awesome thought. And I'm, again, so blessed to be a part of this community and to be able to grow and adapt and change with this community. And I look back, I got to see, Basic Trainer was there. Basic Trainer is one of those people that when I see him, I just got to give him a big hug. One of my oldest friends in this hobby when it comes to, this channel and stuff. The first person I ever met in person, and fast forward all these years later, and Basic Trainer is still there. And he's still got that same spunk to him, that same, personality. That is so distinctively unique to him. And you can say that about all the people in this hobby. Every single person is so distinctively unique in their character and what they bring to this hobby. It's fascinating. And I am so blessed to call so many people in this hobby my friend. And that's it, guys. That's my Charlotte Collecticon. I'm sorry, I only flew in on Friday. I flew out on Saturday, and then I know some of these guys ended up going to Pokemon Wonder's house Sunday night, and Poke Chef was there cooking up a crazy food. More FOMO there, but listen, you got a wife at home, you got kids at home. Listen, got to keep the wife happy. Happy wife, happy life. Thank you, guys. Thank you for making this hobby special. Thank you for every day I wake up, I want to do this. Every day I wake up, I want to get better at this. I look back on the last couple years and I say, wow, we've grown a lot. Look back on 5 years versus 10 years, and then I try to look into the future and I say, 5 to 10 years in the future, what does that look like? And the future's bright. Hobby's changing. We get caught up in the nuances, but when everything's all said and done, it's not the cards that make up this hobby anymore, it's the people. And if somebody were to ask me, PK, how do you want to be judged in this hobby when everything is all said and done? When I buy my last card, or I breathe my last breath, or whatever happens, if somebody asked me, they're like, PK, how do you want to be defined, and how do you want to be judged with how you've interacted with Pokemon? I never kind of knew the answer to that. Pokemon Wonder asked me that question, what sort of legacy would I like to leave on the hobby? And I think I finally got the answer to that question. Is the way I want to be judged in the future. If I were to die tomorrow and somebody were to say, how would you judge PK? I want them to judge me by the company I keep. Because I feel if I'm judged in this hobby by the company I keep, I'm doing pretty damn good. But as always, guys, appreciate every single one of you. And as always, I will catch you on the next video.